Hello and welcome to this presentation about dashboards. The intended audience for this presentation is students in VCE Computing and in particular Unit 1. So, our learning intention is that students can identify the key characteristics and purposes of dashboards. Now first of all, what is a dashboard? That's a dashboard, that's an example of the dashboard there. That's actually a screenshot that I took a couple of minutes ago of the solar panels and batteries and so forth on my house. And so a dashboard is a tool, it's a data visualization tool, so it's a way of presenting data that shows key performance indicators such as how much electricity is being used by my house, and there you go, it's 9 kilowatts, although some of that's actually going out to the car, which is why that's so high. Metrics, just, what's the, 27% left on the battery, and critical information in a central place using a graphical interface to make it easy to understand. If any of you happen to have a Tesla Powerwall at home, they actually have particularly pretty infographics for theirs. I've seen it on people's phones and so forth. And it provides users with an at-a-glance view of complex systems. So that they can just keep an eye on it and just go, oh yeah, that's what I need to know, in a way that's more accessible than just giving them the raw data. What are the characteristics of them? This is actually from that same dashboard of mine, and it consolidates multiple data sources. So in the case of mine back here, it consolidates what's coming off the solar panels, what's coming in off the grid, what the battery's doing. So it's often bringing in multiple sources of information. It doesn't have to, but generally it does. It's real-time or near real-time information, so it might be updated every 15 minutes or so. And in some settings it'll be updated, every second, depending on what it's monitoring. It's graphical and interactive. So particularly, like if you're here, I could actually click on that and I could make various bits of data appear and disappear, and I can zoom in. So it does give me that snapshot view, but also it lets me dive deeper if I want to. And it's customizable, so you can say, I do want this and I don't want that, although to greater and lesser degrees. And it should be able to support quick decision making because you're getting the information you need all at once. So what sort of components do we traditionally see in data dashboards? Now, when I say traditionally, I think I probably saw my first data dashboard only about 15 years ago, but they're all over the place now. Like they're very, very common. If you were to go into the IT office at my school, you would see they often have a data dashboard up showing the health of the network so that they can see problems as they come up in real time. I went on a kind of field trip to one of the big banks, and they had a war room where they were watching the threats to cybersecurity, of which there are thousands a day to them, how the statistics of those are playing out in real time, and they're up on big screens in the room. So charts and graphs, very common, particularly line graphs. Key performance indicators, just what's the key information, what's the status of various systems. Tables of data are often presented as well as graphs, and there are often filtering options, so you can say, hey, I only want to see things of this type rather than this type. And as I said before, there's drilling down. You can actually bring it up on your own screen and say, okay, just show me the detail behind this particular thing here. So where it says CO2 reduction, I might be able to click on that and say, okay, break that down, and it'll actually let me dive into that data in more detail. So here are some examples. This is just one I pinched off the internet. I should have linked to where I got it from. This is people selling a particular dashboard for traffic to your website, so that you can see how many people are visiting, where they're coming from, where they're going on the site, what sort of devices they're using. And you might be able to look at this and think, we're getting a lot of traffic from this social media platform, but not very much from this. Maybe we're not spending enough, maybe we're spending too much. Maybe our content isn't suitable for that. But it lets you have a look at it and just go, oh gee, July was a pretty busy month and so was December, but gee, the conversion rate in November was very low. So the internet is awash with people trying to sell you things like that. This is a mock-up of what the War Room dashboard looked like in the bank I went to. The one they had a lot more information than that. I would say probably 4 times as much information. This one is a mock-up of what you might find in a hospital. When I was looking at this, I was certainly thinking about things like the health privacy principles and the Privacy Act. and that you would not want to have the names of patients up in a public area. So this might be behind the scenes where only medical staff are going to be, but it might mean that they could walk past and just go, oh, that's right, Mr. Smith. That's right, I need to check in with him. Or, oh, we've got an ambulance on the way. So it can give you very quick information, access to critical information. This one I made up as a bit of a bugbear. We went and stayed at a hotel, which was not a Ritz-Carlton, by the way, which is what they've created in this. But we went and stayed in a hotel, and our room was at about 32 degrees, and they just couldn't get the air conditioning working. And their system was telling them that their room was like 17 degrees, but in actual fact it was wrong. So that got me thinking about how you might have a dashboard in a situation where you're going to lose customers if rooms are too warm. So that's a situation where you could have that. So I've got a little bit of a thing I'm going to do with my students. You might want to do this in your own head. But imagine we are, and I've written we care, we are creating a dashboard for the IT staff at GHS to use at Geelong High School where I teach. We actually already have one of these. So, but imagine we were making one for the first time. Suggest one type of information and how it should be presented. So that's something for you to have a little bit of a think about. I'm not going to tell you all the stuff that's on it, not least of all because I'm at home and I don't know off the top of my head what's on it. And finally, I'm going to ask students to go and find an example of a good dashboard and share it with me so that I can share it with the class. So I hope you've learned a little bit more about dashboards. I suspect that if you hadn't heard of them, now you know what it is. You'll see them around all the time. And I think it's only going to get to be a more and more popular product.